Halloween is right around the corner, and as such, I figured now would be a great time to talk about the remake of the first Resident Evil.
The game begins with a team from a group known as Stars scavenging a sketchy forest where there have been reports of people being murdered and eaten. The team finds a pack of dogs and runs for a mysterious mansion in the middle of the forest.
Look, I know the game just started, but it doesn't seem very spooky yet.
Enter the survival horror?
Alright, that's it. Things have officially gotten scary.
There are two characters that you can play as, Chris Redfield or Jill Valentine. Jill has a whopping 8 spaces worth of inventory. That's 8 item slots for her weapons, ammo, health items, and key items. Chris can carry a total of 6 items. This was before people carried briefcases around a zombie-infested forest, so you're stuck having to run back to an item box every time you find a small gem you want to pocket. Something I noticed early on in this game is that at times it can be a little bit cryptic. When the two have run each other through, the path to your destiny will open. Sort of a weird thing for a clock to be telling me. It's definitely a puzzle-heavy game. If you like playing Metroidvanias, exploring mildly creepy environments, and doing a little bit of thinking, then the Resident Evil remake was made for you. Just be warned that it has a few flaws. For starters, some of the characters are exceptionally unrealistic, especially Barry.
Didn't you say you were going back to the dining room to find other clues? I'm glad and all, but why are you here?
I just had something I wanted to check. Anyway.
Wow, that was a pretty good cover-up. Maybe next time you could just say, "I'm definitely not here to betray you."
Something about that mansion still bothers me.
Somebody make this man a detective. His perception is unmatched. Not only do you find Barry saying some weird things, you can also find him doing strange things, like reading a folder with his hand over his eyes. Doesn't seem like the most efficient way to do that. Something that you may or may not have noticed while watching this review is the fixed camera angles. I get it, they use pre-rendered images for all the backgrounds, and sometimes it looks cool, but there are also times when you have to ask, why do I need to be looking at this? I'm just staring at a door right now. I get enough of that every time I open a door and watch an 8-second animation.
You may think this review has been pretty negative so far, and I certainly wouldn't deny that, but there are some things that make Resident Evil stand out in the sea of other survival horror games.
The music in the game is pretty decent overall. My favorite song has got to be the Save Room theme. Something about it is relaxing and creepy at the same time. The best part about the Resident Evil remake, in my opinion, is its story. More specifically, the story that took place about 30 years before the events of the game. Over the course of your stay in the Spencer Mansion, you'll uncover notes, journals, and books from the scientists who worked in the mansion. You'll also find messages from the architect of the mansion, George Trevor. I'm not quite sure why he didn't find it highly unusual that Spencer wanted elaborate puzzles in his relaxing getaway mansion, but he made them regardless. Trevor soon learned that normal people don't actually want to solve algebra equations in order to get around the relaxing retirement home, and that the only reason that any person would ever do such a thing is if they wanted to hide something from the rest of the world. Trevor ends up trapped in the crazy mansion with no way of escaping. Even worse, his wife and daughter are somewhere else in the mansion under the care of Spencer, who is very much not the type of guy you want to have taking care of you. Cut 30 years to the future, and Jill gets a message from her pal Barry, who cries for help as he deals with some sort of monster in chains. The monster, it would seem, is immune to bullets. Barry warns Jill not to travel into the forest, which is advice that would have been nice to have about 5 minutes earlier. Naturally, you're required to go deeper into the forest and eventually into a log cabin, where Jill gets knocked out by the monster in chains. It kindly leaves her alone until she wakes up, then resumes the fight. If you don't want to hear some major spoilers, then pause the video right now and come back to watch the end of it later, so I can get more watch time. Alright, spoiler time. This monster is Lisa Trevor, George Trevor's daughter. I just realized that probably does not have any impact if you haven't played the game, but, yeah. Very good improvised line I just did there, 100% on the fly. I doubt you guys were even able to tell. Shortly after discovering the identity of Lisa Trevor, you climb down to the laboratory and face off against Tyrant. I've been saving up all my resources for this one fight. And that was it. One of the lamest endings of all time. Though I don't know if it can quite compare to the worst ending in the remake of the second Resident Evil game.
Leon?
Hey. Oh, okay. Hi. And apparently bye. Because you just disappeared for some reason.
It's one of the most nonsensical endings to a game that I've ever seen, especially considering it was pretty good up until then. Anyways, Hey,